It's my honor and my pleasure to welcome on Dr. Mary Catherine George from the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, who took part in our most recent Women's Health Tech Challenge. And she's developed a very novel solution, Comfort Wave VR, and we've gone from remote patient monitoring, detection, and diagnosis to more managing chronic pain and care. MC, great to have you on the program. Wonderful to have you back on. We'd love to hear more about what you're doing with Comfort Wave VR and specifically how you sort of identified PMPS as sort of one of the key areas where the technology could make a real impact.
You know, one of the problems with chronic pain is that the medications that we have available are not really sufficient. And there's such a subjectivity to chronic pain in patients, no matter what type of pain they're suffering from. So, you know, many of the modalities that are behavioral are very time intensive. They involve getting with a therapist, and that's where the inspiration came from. We know that self-hypnosis, if you can teach a patient self-hypnosis for their chronic pain, they do much better at managing their pain. We did a study back in 2013 where we used this with HIV chronic pain. And the challenge is how can you get patients to go to a hypnotherapist and do the many sessions to learn to self-hypnotize? And I guess when I saw virtual reality being a big movement in rehab, it was helping people who have pain, back pain, and using a rehab model with virtual reality helped people kind of like stop having that fear avoidance of movement. And I thought, oh my goodness, this would be wonderful if we could see, if we could validate what is self-hypnosis into a virtual experience. So we've spent the past year working with engineers to develop this software and the virtual experience. And, you know, we're just now starting with patients. And I think that, you know, just from our study team using it, we find it amazing right now.
No, that's really wonderful. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of that launching, like, that sort of study with an FDA abbreviated device and
Uh,
sort of the steps that sort of go
well,
into it right now?
you know, I love that we had these two previous presenters that you discussed about their process of bringing something to the market. You do want to know what the FDA is going to perceive of your device and your software. And so for me, I started out trying to get a Q submission, which is kind of a lengthy process. And you put all your questions about what would they agree to approve in a software that would give a person that has chronic pain, such as from post-mastectomy pain syndrome, would give them relief. What would you want to see from a research perspective that would give us the approval? And let me tell you something, that was a major engagement with the FDA, especially when you're talking about, first of all, chronic pain, which is very subjective, and then someone's own experience in a virtual world and how that they perceive it and how it impacts that pain. So we had a very lengthy discussion, but eventually, you know, it is all about biologics. They want to have heart rate variability. They want to have an EEG. They want to have, you know, function measured like steps and walks and then duration of pain relief after the treatment. So we've really move towards those things, but right now the funding is very limited to add some of those biological measures. So, you know, we're chronically looking for funding
Of
so that we
course.
can meet an FDA requirement to have these biologics that demonstrate not only is it something that a subjective patient says, oh, this is helping me, but it actually shows the biological measures that demonstrate it can help you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's certainly a long road, and it's a process, and it's not made easy for you for sure.
No, it's
Uh,
not.
but one of the things that we really focus on at HITLAB, of course, as you know, is evidence based research on these different technological solutions in healthcare, and you yourself have had great tenure in the research game, if you like, at Sinai. So just to wrap up, because we are at time, unfortunately,
Definitely,
would
no
love to get
problem.
your take on the evidence and clinical data that's supporting sort of the effectiveness of what you're doing with Comfort Wave VR in treating PMPS and chronic pain, and how you measure that success in essentially improving quality of life.
Patients who have used this both pre and post surgery, there is good data out there for patients who went in to have a mastectomy, used self-hypnosis. I don't know what they actually used in the software, pre and post the surgery, and they benefited greatly. Now, they didn't continue to use it because I think there was a limitation of access to the device. But definitely, we have a huge amount of information that if you teach a patient self-hypnosis, they will benefit. And see, I think what I believe is by giving a patient this tool, this VR tool, it's a concrete tool that creates that sort of calming, mindful presence. And for me, I think what is even more impactful is it kind of detaches the person from their perceived pain perception. I think that's where the power is, and it's hard to demonstrate that. But I think that if we put our biological measures on what we're doing, we're going to have that data. So I'm very, very excited.
That certainly sounds exciting. It's a wonderful way to round off our conversation and the symposium for today. MC, thanks so much for coming on and sharing
Thank
your
you.
insights with
This is
us.
always a pleasure.
Exciting to see where you're going to go with Comfort Wave VR,
Me
and
too. Very excited.
look forward to having you back on the program again.
Definitely.
Okay, so that rounds off our symposium for March 2025, looking at the concepts to applications of the way that digital health solutions are transforming the world of healthcare. We wouldn't be able to bring this program or the subsequent programs and past programs to you without the help of our amazing team that works so hard in the background: Rachel, Ansley, Raymond, Pallavi, Melissa, Sammy, Nico, Rijo, Mr. John Hammett, and Mr. Stan Kishnowski, of course. Amazing work done behind the scenes to bring you programs such as these. And of course, we couldn't do it without our partners and our sponsors in the Merck Global Health Innovation Fund, Helix VM, Fox Rothschild, Versely, IMC, FFF Enterprises, or Silicon Valley Bank, to name but a few. And if you are interested in supporting any of the programs, please reach out to me or Stan, and we'll see you all on the next symposium. Take care, everyone.